Some people may say this is your first film, and we did that in 4 days. I like to say that it took me 10 years to make this film.
We were just talking about this outside, and it's such an incredible, emotional, timely film that's very personal to you both. But Ali, why don't you talk about how it started? What was the genesis of this story?
Well, this story became because some times ago I met Lucas and we became friends, and then we started to talk about the possibility to work together, to make a movie together. And during this time, the immigration policy here in USA was changing, and Luca is an immigrant here, and he was in that time fight to take his citizenship here in USA. So we realized that it was important to talk about this, about the immigrations, the guys. I have a lot of friends who live here, who came to USA to try to live their American dream, and then these American dreams become a kind of nightmare. So this is why we decided to make this movie together and write this love story in this tough period of the time.
Luca, as we said, this is very personal to you. Before we move on, what is your status now?
Well, shortly after we filmed America, I got my American citizenship. So I feel safe now, and I'm very proud to be in America and to fight for this country like everybody else.
Yeah. Talk about working with Ali and how you wanted to tell this story, especially in the short form feature. I always find it fascinating. Where would you begin and end the story?
Yeah, I mean, Ali is one of the most incredible directors in Brazil, and I was very nervous to work with Ali, knowing the kind of work he does. One of the biggest productions ever done in Latin America, City of Gods, the series on HBO, is directed by Ali. He does incredible features. He's been to every festival and have won so many. And for me, that was my first piece of work as an actor. And although I've been studying for the past 5 years and also doing something that meant so much for my community, for immigrants, there was a lot of responsibility there, but it turned out to be such a blessing because Ali's work is so beautiful. He's so kind. It was like a father on set, really guiding me to tell the story with the poetry that he wrote it, and seeing the final work just gave me such a sense of accomplishment, and I'm so grateful for this guy here. He made me an actor now.
Yeah, and by my side it's so good after a couple of years make big feature films or TV shows become to a short film, because I started making short film. I have 10 shorts, and it was so nice to tell this small but powerful story with a young actor, and it's so touching to see the shine in the eyes of young actors who were full of things to tell and full of emotion to sell. So was a kind of new gasoline for my career to make this work with Luca.
I want to talk about the timeline of making this, because as I said, this is so timely. But when did you start filming this story?
We started this story in end of April, and a couple of days before our rep, they announced the first No King protest. So we decided to shoot put tone in that situation, because we realized that this strong popular manifestation against this kind of dictatorship should be our beginning. So I think it was May 4th, I don't know, we shot the first scene in where? Sorry, I
Well,
forgot every time.
Well, it was a couple weeks actually after we finished filming the movie. Then there was so many protests. 2 weeks after we finished filming this movie, they arrested 60,000 immigrants in the most brutal way, as everybody has witnesses. And we decided, Ali had the idea, why don't you go to the protest, and we actually are going to film in a real protest. And I was like, Ali, can we not do this in a controlled environment? I was in the middle of the process to get my citizenship, and there was so many things that could go wrong at that time. So the protests in LA were a little violent, and I told Ali, I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable going to a protest in LA. And I checked other cities, and there was a big protest in Chicago, and I decided to go there because thinking that was going to be more peaceful, and indeed it was very peaceful. We filmed those scenes there, and then Ali decided to add into the film, and so it was a great addition. I believe so.
Just that's at the beginning. I also want to talk about the ending, because you said, use the word poetic, and I feel like the ending is so powerful and yet poetic at the same time. Devastating too. Talk about filming that, the cinematography, that was beautiful, but also Luca's, that expression that you had was just heartbreaking. Yeah, what conversations did you have about your ending?
Yeah, that scene is a kind of metaphor. I think that when the people start to fight against their own people, the result can be something like this. You shot or hurt your brother, and that's what's happened. A police officer here in USA shot a cowboy here in USA. So I think that is a kind of simple metaphor in that scene, and to realize this, to do this scene, it was really, really important that Luca in his first experience sell to us all of those emotion that he sell at the end. So we talk a lot about the sequence, and Luca made a really, really beautiful job, but he fought for this sequence, and you can tell the story because it's beautiful. I think that the scene can explain how we worked together as real partnership in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the hardest scene to film. At first, when Ali first handed me the script, I thought, well, I got this. This is an immigrant, This is a character that has so many similarities to who I am. And it's a short, so you'd think that, I got this. It's easy. But during the process of bringing this character to life, I realized how hard and challenging it was, because when you're filming a short, you have a short amount of time to deliver so much emotion, and this character was written with so much depth. He was written in a way that his heroism was becoming and being human, and you don't come across those type of characters very often. And every scene has so much emotional depth that was so compact, and we were filming everything so quick. We were filming 10 hours, 12 hours a day. Every day we filmed this, filming 4 days, right? So that was all really quick. And I've realized that, when I moved outside of Brazil, I was 17, and it's been a little over 10 years. So looking back, my life has changed a lot. I am very lucky to say the American dream came to life for myself, it came to realization, and for those they're struggling and wondering, I think it is possible, it gets better. But the hardest part was I had to look back to the Luca I was 10 years ago and the struggles I went when I was 17 and moving alone to another country with no money, no support, no friends, and you don't really feel like you belong. You don't speak the language. You know how many times I had to mimic, you know, to tell people what I wanted or where I wanted to go, and it was a gift because it allowed me to look back and realize how far I've come. But also I had to look back and see how painful that process was. And honestly, I don't know how I made it here, how I'm here tonight with Variety and doing a film. It's all really, really cool and exciting. But that scene it was really hard because also we're filming a short. With independent film is so hard. We had very little budget. We had very little time. Ali only had 5 days between his productions to be here filming. And there was some technical issues with the soundstage, and at the time we started filming, we only had time to one take for the most important scene in the whole film. And the first take was awful. It was very clear to me that it was awful, and there wasn't truth and real emotion there. And I look at Ali and I said, Ali, and they're like rapping, and I said, we need to do this again. What do you mean I only get one shot? And Ali was like, well, the studio needs to close, we can't. And I really had to fight and convince. And I went to talk to the owners of the studio and I said, really, like, you guys can't stay half an hour? We just need to do this one more time. Give me 10 minutes. And I had to beg. And then they finally said, okay, let's do it one more time. And it was finally when that scene really came to life. And it was the most powerful thing I've ever done in my life. You know, that scene went on for 20 minutes. It was really long. There was so much more to it, and it's sad to see, you know, in the final product, only very little of it gets there. There is a moment where Cheyenne Jackson, Josh, the character, starts singing the song I Teach Him, the Portuguese song, and that's the last moments of connection between them because he might be dying. And we filmed that. It was so beautiful. Unfortunately, it didn't make it. But it was... I don't know, it was one of the most powerful things I've done in my life. Absolutely. I think the feeling, somebody asked me what the feeling was like, and I don't have with myself the feeling of grief, but it was like coming out again. And that's how painful that moment was for me.
Beautiful. I want you talked about the American dream, right? As you can tell, I'm from the UK. This is the American dream, right? If you want to be a journalist or if you want to be an actor, we're here with Variety. And you are telling your story, this story. What does it mean to you? Like, it's like, I want you to take it in. Like, you've achieved the American dream. You're an American citizen. You're an actor. You're on the Oscar trail. Talk about what this moment means to be sharing with the audience and audiences.
I just feel humbled to be able to tell a story that will resonate with so many and in some ways can help me protect my community and also share the work and the accomplishments I have for myself with so many others out there. And I think also being an inspiration for so many other young people who will look at me and see that it's possible they can come here, they can create a life for themselves and work hard and be honest and build a life that they've dreamed for themselves. Going back to acting, it was a gift that I gave to my younger self because I grew up in a Jehovah's Witness household and acting was definitely not on the table. But I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to be an actor. I always wanted to be a performer, but nobody would support that. And I had to grow up. I had to go away from my country. I had to learn another language. I had to work really hard to be able to even pay my acting classes. And it took me years and years to be able to finally be here now doing a film. And that was a gift I gave to my younger self, to be able to do what I wanted. And it took me 10 years. Some people may say, this is your first film, and we did that in 4 days. I like to say that it took me 10 years to make this film, and I think that's what it means to me. It's to be an inspiration for others and to create something that will live forever and might create a change that's beyond my imagination. I think this film is already doing things that I've never imagined. I'd never think that I would be here doing a screening in Variety and talking to an audience and having incredible filmmakers looking at this film that was done with so much love, but really we just did it to tell a story, to do what we love. Me and Ali. Ali didn't need to do a short film and as an established filmmaker, he didn't have to, but he did it because we could be a voice for our community, for immigrants, and speak about something that really matters and really needs to change. I don't know, I fought for so much to be in America. I fought so much to be here. And now I look back and I have an American passport, and it's bittersweet because I look back and I'm like, I don't recognize the country I've been fighting for, and I desired so much to live here. But so it makes me a little emotional to look at it because I just don't recognize the country we live anymore, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And, you know, the anti-immigration narrative is worsening literally by the second, because who knows what is happening as we sit here for, 20, 30 minutes to discuss. Like, Ali, what does it mean for you to have this story out in the world, and to Luca's point, like, have the conversation about what is happening in America today?
Well, in all of my career, I have made films about social subjects. I started my career. I have a strange story. I was a prison guard, and I started making movie in the prison system. And my first film was about the prison system. One of this movie was in the short list of the Oscars in 2013. And since then, I've made feature films and TV shows and short films about social subjects, because is how I think my life. I consider myself as a fighter. I need to use my skills and my voice to talk about this thing that is so important for me. This is why I decided to write this script about the immigration, because I don't live here. I still live in Brazil. I'm not an immigrant, but I have a lot of friends who are here in this moment, and they are suffering. So I think that this is a small piece that I'm trying to build in this wall that we are trying to build against the fascism, against the conservative situation that it's taking place in my country, here in your country. So that's it.
Well, to that, like, what is that like seeing, Luca, you touched on it when we were talking a little bit earlier about, seeing what happened in Brazil and the parallels of where America is rapidly going.
Yeah, I think nowadays Brazil have a good lesson to teach to US, because there in Brazil we had this fascist government a couple of years ago. After the election, this guy tried to make a coup of that, and nowadays he is going to the jail because our justice system is working. So now Brazil is the biggest democracy in the Americas, and I'm so proud about it. So I think that we learn the lesson, and we can teach the lesson to the other countries.
Yeah, there is also another documentary that is, for the Oscars competition this year, called Apocalypse in the Tropics, and it's a great watch. It documents, the journey of the downfalls of Brazilian presidents and all the schemes that they did in order to bring a dictatorship back. And it's proven now our ex-president is in jail for creating a scheme to take over the country and bring the army. And he tried, he destroyed the White House. He destroyed our Congress, and he wanted to keep his government by force. And lucky enough, our country is now in a place of democracy and education that have come a long way, and people were able to stop that. But seeing what's happening here feels very close to home in that sense, because it's incredibly possible. And I think that documentary can teach a lot. But it's a great watch for everybody to catch up with.
Your America is a story of love, tolerance, and accepting one another of how we look. Aside from what is the call to action that you want this audience to take away from tonight, to do tonight, and also take away from having seen the film?
This movie is about empathy. I think that when we look to other person with empathy, we don't see a Mexican boy or a Korean boy. We see a person, a human, and we can understand his feeling or his desire, their desire, or wherever. So I think that the strong thing that we want to do through this movie is that we need to be more tolerant. If you think here in US, except the Native American, all of the people are or immigrant or son or grandson or grandson of an immigrant. Because, between the colonization process, the only people that was here was the Native American. So your parents should be moved to here, to you stay here. So we are all immigrants in the end of the day.
Yeah, I think even myself, Tom reminded me where I came from, and after 10 years and becoming very comfortable and being part of this culture, I think in English nowadays, so Tom helped me to look back in my own language, in Portuguese, and remind myself who I am, where I come from. And although I still live like an immigrant, even for me, it got comfortable. So I think the film is a reminder that we are all immigrants here. And if you don't feel like one, your parents were, your grandparents were immigrants, and maybe they've been through the same struggles that Tom went. Some came on cargo ships, some came in horrible conditions, and those were your family. Those we are all immigrants here. And I think what I want the movie to show everybody is that we need and we must protect each other and put our differences aside. There is a very poetic scene where a cowboy just takes his hat and put on this very scared boy. And that really show what America can be. The hat symbolizes America, the cowboy symbolizes America, and taking his hat, he's taking his privilege and saying, I will pass this to you and I'll protect you. And I think that's the call to action. We must protect each other, we must love each other. And I think as a society, all we're trying to do is to love each other, and then comes systems, comes politics, and comes religion, and comes all these things that gets in between people trying to love each other. That's all we're trying to do all over the world. And seems like our system is so broken that you won't let us do the one thing that everybody needs, which is love.
Beautiful, incredible. I want to say thank you so much for sharing your movie tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Please spread the word about America, and don't forget that you can opt in on the portal to vote for live action short films.
I just want to say thank you everybody for being here tonight. I know the award season is very busy, and it means a lot that you guys made the time to support independent film and especially shorts, international talent. Everybody knows how hard it is to make an independent film, and to be this far, it just means a lot to me that you are here tonight. And thank you, Variety, for giving us your platform.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jazz.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.